Sleepy D's, we are back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday, Bec.
Happy Wednesday, Sally. Happy Wednesday, everybody out there.
We are back doing one of our favourite episodes, Sleepy D's, aka Sleep Detectives. If you're new to the podcast, this is where we answer your real-life baby sleep questions that come through on our socials. And we do our best to stay on track, but we do love a side quest.
We do.
And we often like to use our own imagination to fill out the question and make it as if it was one of the common scenarios that we see if we don't have all the facts.
Sometimes we complicate it.
Oh, don't we just? Yeah, so just feel free. You can hyperspeed.
Oh, yeah.
those
1.2.
I think we speak pretty fast as it is anyway. I was raised on the Gilmore Girls, so I blame that. But I got a lovely message actually through a listener via TikTok who said, thanks for all of the advice and info you give on your podcast. I listen to it as a general podcast in the background, not just when I'm having sleep issues. And I thought, Bec, we've made it.
Wow.
We've made it to general consumption, not just SOS.
Yes, totally. Maybe it's our
2
voices.
a.m. typing in Spotify. That's so nice. People actually want to listen to us.
Maybe maybe those adenoids don't need to come out at all.
Do not get them out. They are now officially part of our branding, okay? Your tongue tie and your adenoids must stay intact.
No surgery required. Okay.
You've lasted
for your
this
listening
long.
pleasure.
Exactly. Everyone's going to be like, who's that new co-host Sally's got? No.
Yeah. No.
You will remain a mouth breather until we finish this pod.
It's like when that the star of the show Dirty Dancing, and she got her nose reworked and she never worked again.
Patrick, yeah. I was going to make a Patrick Swayze comment, but he sadly passed away. I was going to say Patrick Swayze will never want to work with you again. But no.
He can't.
If by Patrick Swayze I mean me. Oh no, talk about side quests. We haven't even got started.
Okay.
But if anyone has tongue ties, oral ties, Bec's your gal. She's got lived experience.
I do.
Okay, I've got one. You ready?
I am.
14-month-old, still waking every 2 hours overnight, co-sleeping, feels like we've tried everything.
Oh, I think this always boils down to have you tried, like you've tried everything. Like we talk about this a lot in terms of like a lot of families, they'll feel like they've tried everything. That maybe sort of almost feels like it's but have you really
tried sleep training?
Yes.
Don't worry. I know you were wanting to be really soft with that.
I was.
But let's give the context behind that because it's not as harsh as it can sometimes sound. I think that for a lot of families, when you feel like you've tried everything, sometimes behavioural sleep training techniques have not been utilised or perhaps not been able to be utilised appropriately or consistently enough because it's really hard. And I think also the nuance here is 14 months of age is very different from a 5 or 6 month old baby. This baby can stand up, could probably try and hitch a leg over the side of the cot. They are talking, they have gusto, they have stamina, they're on the 2-to-1 nap transition can be a real doozy for some families. They're walking, they're doing all the things. It's a very different baby and that can often make it much harder. I think that this mother should not feel alone at all. In fact, Bec, I know you and I just got a Camp Snooze sign up with a 13-month-old doing something very similar. And I would say, yes, the majority of the babies that I work with, and I'm pretty sure you're the same, Bec, is 6 to 9 months. But I would say after that, it's about 12 to 15 months because it's that it is the 2-to-1 nap transition. It's the I'm not quite a baby, but I'm not quite a full-blown toddler. There's a lot going on in the mix. And so this mother, this parent is definitely not alone in feeling like I have tried so many things and nothing seems to stick. And I think we would hear that regardless of age. Because you're listening to this podcast, you are doing all the things to try and piece it together. And sometimes what we need to do is zoom out. And that's what that's why we exist as sleep consultants, because we're not as emotionally invested. We want the best for you and your baby, but we're not living, breathing it, crippled with sleep deprivation, being kicked in the face by co-sleeping with a 14-month-old, doing all of it day in, day out. We are able to zoom out, look at a bird's eye picture of what could be going on, highlight the things that we can fix that are easy wins in terms of timings, feeds, schedules. Have we still got 5 milk bottles in the mix overnight? Where can you and I identify those things? We bring it right back to age-appropriate basics, and then we give you a technique to use instead of co-sleeping or instead of rocking or instead of breastfeeding back to sleep. We give you a technique. We explain how, we explain why, so that you are able to see it through and you don't end up feeling like, I've tried it and it didn't work, because you'll have us on the other end being like, how did it go? You got to go again. And it's great. That's your win. Excellent. Can you see this success? Amazing. Keep at it.
Yeah. We're your coaches. I think the idea of we've tried everything sometimes stems from what the latest thing is in terms of so the information is at your fingertips, and so there's quite often little trends that come into play. So for a little while there could be trim the nap back, trim nap 2 back, you'll get extra sleep pressure. Like someone will throw that out. So mum and dad trim the nap back, and then they, hope that that's going to be the win. And maybe it does work for a couple of days, but then you're back to the, square one all over again. And then the next thing might be, okay, well, don't, make sure that you have plenty of good fats in the dinner time. Add some butter and you might have all these things.
Have you
that
got iron rich?
Yeah, you feel
get rid
like
of the
you're
white
doing,
noise. Put in white noise.
Yeah. You have all those things, but it's never the whole package. And that is what you were alluding to before, is that we zoom out, we do a complete overhaul in terms of timings and so forth. Everything is put together in a way that works in conjunction with each other. It's really it feels like when you work with us, you don't feel like we're just throwing numbers at you and timings and this amount of food and so forth. You will actually understand, we give you the reason behind why we actually do these things. It's so that you've got that whole, oh, okay, yes, that makes total sense. I'm going to do it this way because this will impact this. This will follow on from that. And I will have the confidence to back myself when I do need to use a behavioural technique in order to sort of tie this up. So that's why sometimes it feels like you've tried everything. I'm not saying that this mum has sort of gone down the rabbit hole of trends, but sometimes that's how it works. And you need everything to line up. You need all the pieces of the pie to make it line up so that your sleep training journey is a quick one. You don't want your sleep training journey to be months and months and months. If you're wanting to, because it's hard work. It feels constantly, you feel like you're constantly thinking about the clock, watching the clock, timings, feeds, all the things.
Starting at day night one again and again and again.
Yeah. So having the confidence behind what you're doing. Also, behavioural techniques are sometimes the one thing that parents are very reluctant to do. And so you kind of, there's a little element of, and there's nothing wrong with this, of my comfort levels. My comfort levels will only allow me to do this, this, and this, which is totally fine. We actually always work to comfort levels, but we also want to be super realistic in terms of temperaments and personality types as well, because some babies do better with a different type of technique than other babies.
Yes.
And so it's sort of, and also some techniques work better with specific challenges or age groups. So
Yes.
we're always trying to marry up what techniques are going to work better for your particular child. There'll always be a couple of suggestions at least. Like you guys will always pick the method that feels more comfortable for you and what you feel you can follow through with consistently and confidently, but narrowing them down to what the challenge is, your child's temperament and your comfort level is really important.
And also highlighting why we wouldn't then recommend necessarily pivoting to something else because of progress that you have seen or because of the way that your baby does respond when you try something else. Because when it's feeling hard, it can be very tempting to chop and change and to try and fix. And often it is just a matter of being able to zoom out, look at the progress you've already made so that you can continue on. And I said this to a client 2 weeks ago. Bec, you were on the call with me for Camp Snooze. And I said, it's almost a liberating moment when you've exhausted all of these other options. You've tried all the things that work for all the other families. You've done the rocking, the holding, the bouncing, and it's not working. There is absolutely a time and a place for a behavioural sleep training technique for a behavioural sleep problem. And we say behavioural as in it's manifesting in a behaviour, in pattern seeking, and we're needing to do a bit of a circuit breaker in that regard and set a new pattern. Not that your baby is being bad or naughty or manipulative or calculating. It's none of that. It's just legitimately well-documented behavioural sleep issues. And there are well-documented, evidence-based behavioural sleep training techniques. And I think a lot of sleep consultants really want to avoid touching those. And you and I believe that they absolutely have a place. And I do believe it's why we have the results that we have across the board. And that doesn't mean that we're not kind and gentle. We have a whole podcast episode on that because I think it can often sound you are either gentle or you use behavioural sleep training. But even hands-on stuff is still behavioural. We're still making change, but there are some that need to be a little bit more hands-off than others. But our job is to coach you as to why, when, how, not just arbitrarily say, right, you get Ferber, Oprah style, and you get Ferber. It's okay, great. And now let's look at the data. How is this feeling? What is happening? Amazing. And you and I are surprised all the time when all the other things work as well. We can't always pick it either. And so that's why we will work with you and then coach you based on the data that we see.
I've got almost sorry to cut you off, a 2.5-year-old that I'm working with at the moment. And 6 months ago, they took the cot out of the mix because he just would not, beautiful family, by the way, he just would not play ball with staying in the cot. He was rocked and held on the rocking chair to go off to sleep, but then the transfer was proving super difficult. Then they, to make it easier for themselves, they had a bed. They put a mattress on the floor, and then it just was so much easier to get him down. But then he kept waking multiple times, and there was hours, and then there was reactive co-sleeping, all the things that sort of carry on with that. And during our consult, we had the two options of keeping the room as a cot, a floor bed, and then putting a baby gate on the door to make the room sort of a cot, or we were going to resurrect the cot, and then put him back in there. And we did that, and then he slept through that night. He has actually slept through 5 of the 7 nights. Mum and Dad have been doing this, like the sleep lady shuffle or the gradual removal or the vanishing chair, whatever you want to call it. And that's been going well. But then we've got to a point where Mum has to go away for work, and so we're working towards more independent settling. And Mum was a little hesitant to leave the room because, he was crying for 20 minutes, but then he would put himself to sleep, and then he would sleep through until 7, which is such a huge improvement.
Massive,
huge. But the tears were hard, like at bedtime for Mum. But last night she was super brave, and she actually did the intervals. She only had to go in twice. He still took 20 minutes to go to sleep. It was exactly the same kind of crying, whether she was in the room or out of the room. But the beauty of it is that, he he woke again in the middle of the night, and mum was able to use the technique again. She didn't have to go in and sit there for an hour and wait. Like, he was able to put himself back down beautifully. But mum has never left the room, for either child before when they've been awake to go off to sleep. So this is so new for her. This is really new, and she's doing a really, really great job. But this is how it all boils down to. You've got to find something that is thoughtful for the challenge at hand, plus the parents' comfort levels, but also is right for the child. So you've got to, and things sometimes seem to work well for a little while, and then we graduate from that plan, and we kind of have to shift with the child's ability to settle and what they're showing us they can do.
I just know that family would feel so confident also knowing that you have their back. So I think you can, let's say they'd pieced all of that together through the podcast, through social media, through all of that, and decided, yes, we're going to bring back the cot. You could still really start to wobble 20 minutes in to bedtime, or maybe never end up leaving the room, and really you might start to want to. But knowing that they have you, I just know that is confidence is half the battle won, and you are so unflappable that that's what gives parents that extra backbone to just be like, no, we are going to bring the cot back in, and this is why, and I understand, so that now I can follow through. Whereas if you feel already a bit fragile about it, it makes the rest hard. And that's because sleep work is really tricky, not because you're a weakie. It's really hard, and you're doing it already from a sleep deprived state. So having someone else in your corner just guide you confidently, I think, is one of the biggest roles. And I just know that family, you will go down in history for them as.
I hope so.
Because do you find that bringing back the cot is sometimes quite a tricky conversation to have, even though it could almost be a non-negotiable for us at times. It is really tricky, and we do understand. I had a similar scenario last week with a consult, although they still had the cot in play for their 2-year, 5-month-old. We'd worked at 8 to 9 months. Everything was smooth sailing. And then 17 days ago, it all just went pear-shaped, and they ended up reactively co-sleeping, and he was now needing to be patted to sleep at bedtime. And they had done a mix of different things, and then would end up co-sleeping of like, please, just at least I can be horizontal for this. And they would sit in the chair as well for 2 hours. He would get back to sleep, and they'd think, great, only for him to wake 45 minutes later. There was the odd tweak we could do to the day scheduling, but really we didn't change much. They had great sleep knowledge. That sounds like I'm tooting my own horn from working with them the 8 to 9 months. But they had a great foundation.
Understanding.
There was very little for us to change. So this became more about, do you know what, this is really classic 2-year-old behaviour. And I went down the vanishing chair path because they were already with the chair, and Mum said, can we go back to using a timed check? And I said, absolutely. And she said, I just can't, it's not working. I've already been doing that. It would be one thing to just do it for 20 minutes and then leave and that to get better and smaller each night. But 2 hours of that, and then 45 minutes later he's up. It's not doing what I want it to do, and it's just not sustainable. And I said, absolutely. So we pivoted, and she said, great, I just know he's got the skill set. I know I can see it through. I know that 17 nights ago, he self-settled within 8 minutes and would put him and sleep 11 to 12 hours overnight and take a 2-hour nap. So it's hitting a reset. And so, in terms of comfort levels, we worked with both based on what they were currently doing. And then she could say, it's not working though. What are my other options? And I did give her the talk about he needs to stay in his cot. Not that she was thinking about doing that, but the cot stays for as long as possible. Well, that was one 15-minute answer. But a whole lot of information there for everyone. Okay. This one we're going to need to fill in a few gaps.
Okay.
But it's about twinnies. So you're also good at that. 8-month-old twins on 3 naps, but waking at 5 to 6 a.m.
Waking at 5 to 6 p.m., did you say?
No, waking between 5 and 6 a.m. So
okay.
She's
on
got 8-month-old
Yep.
twins on 3 naps, but they're early rising, essentially.
Okay. All right.
This is true detective work because we want to know the timings of these naps. Is nap 1 falling early because of the early rise, which is going to reinforce it? Where are your, can we rule out things like genuine hunger? Where are your milk feeds placed throughout the day? Where are solids? How much? How little? Is there protein in the mix? Sleep environment, all the things that the audit that we do for early rising. Is it warm enough? Where are you based? Have you got air conditioning on? Is there a garage door next door that opens at 5:15 a.m.? Have you got your white, brown, pink noise going? What happens at 5 to 6 a.m.? Do you let them go for a little bit? Do you preempt one waking the other, nip it in the bud, bring the other one to your bed? Do you do what happens that could potentially be accidentally reinforcing the early rise? All the things that we're just trying to nip 5 a.m. in the bud can accidentally reinforce it at this stage. I think probably like the undertone of the question would be, is this a sign to move to 2 naps? Just because she's highlighted that they're on 3. But before I would do that, I need every other duck in a row. In fact, and also, are they 8 months corrected? Are they 8 months gestational age? Are they 8 months and 1 week, or are they turning 9 months in 3 days? Because that's a different story as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs to this one because, for example, if their corrected age is less than 8 months, then we're definitely still on a 3 nap schedule and probably on that for a little while.
Yeah.
And I would be wanting to know, I think one of the big things for me is not knowing if there's feeds overnight and like how they're being fed through the day, breast or bottle. If there's bottle in the mix, like how much is being offered. I'd kind of want to know calories as well. I just want to know calories. And without sort of knowing what's going on, it's really, really hard to tell. For me, there would be merit sometimes in having twins are different. Like there's a different strategy to twins because you're wanting to future-proof the night for parents. And so and I'm not suggesting that this has to be in play, but for example, there are times, like I don't necessarily do a dream feed for any baby, but there are times for twins where I might do dream feeds.
I think we talk about that in our dream feed episode because it's almost the only time we'll bring it in.
Yeah. Like to manage tricky early morning scenarios, like if we can't quite. So anyway, whatever. There's lots of different things for twins that we will put in place. Essentially, the answer is you would use your early rise protocol. So whether or not there's a feed in place or there's not, when you get to 5 o'clock, you either offer a teeny tiny feed to get through until 7, or you choose your own adventure and you use your early morning protocol until 7 a.m. But the key is just to back them to get through until 7 a.m. Big feed at 7. Start your day with natural light. Progress. Make sure that you're capping your first and second nap so that then you can fit your third nap in, and then that's happening at the right time so you can get to like a 7:30 bedtime, which then even if you were aiming for 11 hours overnight. So if your bedtime is sitting somewhere between 7 and 7:30 on the 3 nap schedule, you are definitely wanting to get to a wake time sometime after 6. And then that practice of delay, so that then your little one learns to wake up slow and that they will absolutely get the best feed of their life at 7 o'clock. It's just that we wake up and we just chill for a little bit. So relax in the cot. Obviously tricky when you've got a second friend beside you and you're wanting to hang out and play and do all the things. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I think without knowing a little bit more detail, it's a little tricky to answer.
I think if we just assume what we're assuming, we would probably say this isn't about making the 3 to 2 nap transition. In fact, holding on to the third nap, even if it's just a 5 to 10 minute carrier nap, or, in the double pram out on a walk, can actually just bridge you to that great bedtime whilst you line everything else up and look to sleep train out the early rise. In fact, unless everything is looking so good and tidy, I will very rarely make a nap drop off the back of an early rise.
Yeah, for me, that's not a sign because it
No.
feels like a problem.
It feels like a problem unless it's like, I have this great sleeper who's smashing out all of this sleep. It needs to look really obvious and clear. If it's messy, then I would say we need to fix your early rise, and then we will look to make a nap transition. And that sort of applies to all of the nap drops, from 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to 0. I very rarely use early rising as the indication for the nap drop, even though it makes sense on paper to think, well, if I take sleep away from the day, I give it back to the morning. It often doesn't work like that, and then you're left trying to fix more things.
Yeah, because when you have an early rise at this age and you're wanting to drop to 2 naps, the first nap on the OG schedule is an hour and a half. And what tends to happen is if your baby is waking sometime between 5 and 6 to start the day, and then you do a 9:30 to 11 nap, it only serves to reinforce the early rise.
Yes.
It doesn't actually help to reverse it or move away from it. And then what happens is there's a tendency also, if you've got some babies are really good at taking a really nice, lovely, long first nap, but they refuse to lengthen their second one, which then perpetuates this early to bed scenario, which then the vicious cycle of the early rise reinforced by a long first nap. So those are the reasons why we avoid making a 2 nap, like dropping the third nap if we've got early rising in the mix, because it's very difficult to get out of that scenario unless you carefully cat naps and put the third one back in again. So you may as well just tidy the early rise up and then work on scheduling and so forth. So I think it might be worth reaching out to one of us if you're feeling a little bit tricky with that one, because you've got decision after decision after decision to make, because you've got 2
times 2
little ones. Yeah, so this is something we work with families with all the time.
Yeah.
It's a tricky scenario, 3
and
to 2.
It might just be a simple tidy up. Then you implement the early rise protocol. Early rise resolves. Bang, we're now almost 9 months old. And then we make the change.
Yeah.
So there's probably just a little bit of work, a schedule review, bit of an audit, and then it's a matter of early rising. And that, even though it sounds like a complicated answer, that's where we want our families to get to with whatever problem they're facing, is that we line it all up so you've then got just essentially one thing to do.
Yes, because it does feel messy, but the way having somebody else decipher what's going on and then give you a super clear plan that's going to resolve it is so freeing, because someone's made those decisions on how you're going to fix it. Somebody else has made that call. Like, this is your problem. This is how you're going to fix it. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do that. And
And we'll also say, and look out for this to happen and this to happen. So when it happens, you're like, I don't need to panic. The girl said.
I was expecting it. Yes,
the
that's
girl
right.
said this will happen and this is what I'm going to do, because we have seen it time and time again. In our family, if we've seen something before, we say seed it for, because that's what we used to say when we were little. So we just say seed it for and this is what you're going to do about it.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a whole lot of those like babyisms about how you used to say things?
Not really.
So
I don't know.
I even heard my husband say to the dog this morning, after we did a little bit of training. So growing up, I couldn't say the word finished. So I said fiffied.
Oh, yeah.
And so in our family, like even when I did baby sign with mine, I was like, fiffied? Everyone fiffied? And
my God, that's cute.
I heard Cade.
Your whole family.
I heard Cade say it to the dog of like her release command of like, no need to train anymore. He was like, fiffied.
Oh my God, that is the cutest thing.
I have lots, and yogurt is shogi.
You do. Oh, really?
Shogi,
okay.
Yeah.
No.
Do you want a squeezy shog? I'll say.
A shog.
Do you want a squeezy shog?
Oh my God, I'm going to have to think about that and get back to you. Like what my
I
isms
love
are.
all those cute little things. And then I'm so sad when they decide to, it's just one day they know how to say the word properly. So I'll fight the good fight and keep all those things going. Like my son says, Mummy, are you going to parties? I will never correct him. I will forever go to parties instead of Pilates.
Oh, okay. I was thinking parties, like actual, what parties do you go to?
I don't go to parties. Beck, you know me all too well. I'm in bed at 7:35 with my needlepoint or my Kindle. That's a rager in my house. But no, parties is Pilates. Actually, that'd be really cute in the comment section. Can everyone tell us what cute things that your baby says that you hope that they'll never change? Like blueberries, my daughter used to say blue blues.
Oh, that's cute.
I have more blue blues.
Oh my God, maybe my memory's failing me and I can't think of them. It was so long ago.
Maybe yours were just really articulate from the moment they opened their mouth.
That's right. They
Mother dearest, please may I have another serving of blueberries fresh from the punnet? I don't know how you ended up with British children between you being a New Zealander and Ben being Australian, but here we are. All right, final question, and then I will throw to you, Bec, for our lucky last one. This is a good one. It's a juicy one. It says, if I follow your night wean plan, how quick can I get a full night's sleep? 12 months old, 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. feeds. And then part 2 of the question says, I plan to use the extinction method with 1 or 2 check-ins, giving the dummy if required. There is yes.
Lot to unpack in this one, and it's always hard to know which way to go first. I think for me, when we're working on sleep anyway, if there's like some wakings, particularly at 12 months when things have been established for a while, and this listener has said that they are habitual wakes. What was it, 10 and 2?
10 p.m. and 2. And I think, isn't that the classic habitual timings that we just see lock in?
Yeah, all the time. I think what I would want to know is that if you're going to use a technique overnight, again, we just sort of boil down to how does the day look? Have you got your optimal naps, the timings? Have you got your bedtime routine locked in? Are they self-settling at bedtime? If you're using a lot of help to encourage them to go off to sleep at bedtime, then there's a really high chance that then they're looking for that to be recreated overnight when they wake at these habitual times. And I would encourage this listener to have a look at bedtime first. Check your day, check your bedtime. If they're using a lot of help, so feeding, rocking, holding, patting, shushing, co-sleeping, all the things to get off to sleep initially at bedtime, that's actually where you would start the work. And then if you've looked at the day, then obviously you're going to be looking at the calories in through the day. Can you boost the meals? Can you make sure that they're going down with full tummies, like they've had some great milk feeds and so forth? And then only then, once you sort of feel like you are confident about reshaping your nights and resettling some of these wakings without milk, then it's a case of sort of deciding exactly what technique you do want to use. Because there's a difference between extinction and like a Ferber type method.
And there's also nuance involved with if you were, and she mentions night weaning, extinction for us would be you don't go in from 7 till 7. So there's no weaning involved with that. You would have dropped both feeds. And in order to do that, you need to be incredibly confident that there is no genuine hunger or any kind of reverse cycling based on those 2 established overnight feeds. I actually think, and considering there is a dummy in the mix and she's wanting to do 1 or 2 check-ins, which for me, again, doesn't fit the criteria of extinction, I think something like Ferber or a modified Ferber would be a more appropriate technique. So I'm imagining what she's asking with the night weaning plan is that maybe she's wanting to resettle 10 p.m., that habitual feed, and then feeding at the next wake up, which will then organically nudge out the 2 a.m. feed. Or if she was really confident, she could go along the lines of, no feeds before 12 a.m. That's my new anchored time. You could have one then, a really small one at 4. Or if you really wanted to just get down to 1 feed, you could say no feeds before 2 a.m. This is something that we would always make that plan in collaboration with the family based on the days, but those are sort of the common scenarios we might see at this age. And I think age is on her side here in terms of you can push these feeds a little bit more so than, let's say, it's 6 months and a baby's only licking a teaspoon twice at 11:30 a.m. Solids at 12 months are doing the bulk of the work. So ideally. So there are a couple of avenues the overnight resettle versus feed plan could look. But in terms of what to do for those resettles that aren't a scheduled feed, I would be doing a modified Ferber if you're wanting to do something a little bit more hands-off. And again, this applies to bedtime. To your point, Bec, of how is baby falling asleep. We don't just bring in a technique. We don't rock a baby to sleep at bedtime and then say at 10 p.m. and now you're going to have to self-settle. That skill needs to be consolidated and established from the get-go, and then we see out the night the way we started. Consistency is so critical for every baby, and the beauty of teaching it at bedtime is you then have 11 to 12 hours to back it up consistently, even if it looks messy, because then next night you're going to go in and do the same thing, and it's pattern-seeking behaviour that just keeps being followed up. So I would say you could do a modified Ferber and you do a dummy replug. You choose your max threshold of timers. Let's say it's 10 minutes. You go in, you give the dummy back to the baby. At this age also, we know a toddler can replace their own dummy. So I'd be working on that skill during the day just to really flex that muscle and then create that pattern of you tapping the mattress, just like you might tap the floor during a wake window to say, find your dummy, darling. And then you go in to do a timed check and say, find your dummy, darling. You've got 3 or 4 dummies in the cot, and you are sort of backing up again the pattern that you've established during the day. And I think that would be slightly more responsive in an overnight weaning scenario. So you can still go with a less is more approach, but a check-in approach would be part of our weaning plan for sure.
And she also would like to know how long it would take before she gets a full night's sleep.
Yes.
And this is actually a great question. Like it's probably on most families' minds. Like, how long is this going to take? For a lot of little ones, I always say, look, you're going to feel completely different this time next week. Things are going to look different. It's going to be, and that's because we know that the plan and the system works. We can't give specifics because we don't have a crystal ball. There are some little ones that are like, oh, right, so you want me to wake at 2 a.m., I have a feed and I go back down. Okay, no problem. That's annoying. So I'm just going to sleep through.
Exactly. That wouldn't shock me if they do a 1-hour resettle at 10 p.m. and then baby sleeps through and you've officially dropped your overnight feeds, and look at that appetite resurface during the day. The system works, and then you would be following our night weaning plan, which is once your baby drops a feed, we don't bring it back. They technically just drop 2. We don't look to bring it back, and you just use your technique consistently all night long for any wakings. That would definitely be one option of how it goes.
100%. And then others just tend to sort of nudge it out, and it does boil down to your comfort levels again. So some babies are sort of doing a 2 a.m., then it's 2:15, and then it might be 3, and then it might be 4:15, and then it might be 4:30 and 4:45. And that we just sort of keep moving, and then there gets to a point where you're like, actually, I want this to nip it. And then, again, 12 months, we've got a little bit of age up our sleeve. And so if we've redistributed calories, then we can sort of start to pull the pin a little bit faster. However, we always do it in conjunction with you and how you're feeling. But again, lots of little ones will just organically go, okay, cool, no problem. You want me to resettle? I've got no issues doing that. I did for a whole 12 months, but now I'm totally fine doing it.
Yes. I also think that sometimes that 10 p.m. wake up can still linger for a few nights. So even though you might do some great sleep training and see it through so beautifully on night 1, it wouldn't shock me if on night 3 you're still getting a 10:30 blip of sorts. It might feel different. It might have be much quicker. Maybe you do have to only go in twice. But it wouldn't shock me if it still lingers for a little bit longer, even if they're not actively asking for milk and that milk feed's been dropped. We also want to know, like, how long have these feeds been in the mix at these times? Has it just been 3 weeks and you now thinking, oh no, okay, this is backslid and I want to hit reset? That's different even from this has been 3 months versus this has been since they were 4 months of age. And so we have to appreciate the body clock is also working to pick up what we're doing. And if that little alarm clock has been primed for the majority of this beautiful baby's life to say, hey, wake up now, something exciting happens, it's not necessarily a quick fix, but that's where we always fall back on the plan. Okay, if we've got everything else lined up, it's just a matter of seeing this through. And every baby is going to do it in their own time and in their own way. Some faster and quieter than others, some a bit slower and a little bit louder than others. But it's where if the plan is in place, then your confidence is what will keep it all moving in the right direction.
This is so true.
Excuse me. Do you want to wrap us up with the last question?
Okay, let me do that. My screen disappeared. Please hold. Alrighty. I have got 18-month-old screams the house down at bedtime. Checks appear to make him worse.
Very normal.
Now, this is something we actually hear all the time. All the time.
All the time. And first thing that I think is ding, 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 ding. Hello, 18-month sleep regression.
Oh, yes.
Which is really common. And you could have had the best sleeper and then one day it's like a switch has been flicked and you now have big protests at bedtime, overnight wakings, and it is often to do with a really normal developmental milestones of boundary pushing, autonomy seeking, needing some independence. They don't get a lot of say about bedtime. We route march through that bedtime routine. You and I will micromanage you by every 30 minutes to get to bedtime. They don't get a lot of say. Every sleep is a moment of separation, and it is absolutely their job to flex those muscles to figure out where is the boundary, where do I stand, where do I fit in this increasingly widening world. And that's their job. And it is then your job to do the audit. Is there anything else that could be causing this? Is that nap a little too long now at 18 months? Is it too short and I've got this huge wake window? Did they snack all day long and then miss dinner?
Yeah.
Have I filled up their autonomy-seeking cup with lots of age-appropriate opportunities? So, for example, I just had a consult again with a toddler this week, and this isn't to magically fix the bedtime issue, but it is to support the whole child and the whole family experience around making change at bedtime. Your child doesn't get a choice. My children don't get a choice if they're going to brush their teeth or not, but are you going to waddle like a penguin or would you like me to wear you like a jetpack to the bathroom? They get to choose. Do you want the pink nightie or do you want the poodle pajamas? She gets to choose. I choose how many books, but they get to choose which ones.
Yeah.
Did you want a banana smoothie or a blueberry smoothie in the bath? Great. Such a good choice. Would you like to help me make it? So there are all of these micro moments, and this is as much for your toddler and your child as it is for you and your toddler sleep training backbone to say, I have met all of these really lovely needs throughout the day. I can now hold a boundary at bedtime because a lot of toddler sleep work is about hitting reset and holding a boundary.
It is.
And
they're learning how they can influence their world around them. And so that's
they're
where
not
it
doing
gets
anything
hard.
wrong. Yes.
That's where it gets hard. And sometimes they're not necessarily, sometimes it feels like they don't even know what they're upset about. So they just start to sort of carry on and then you're not doing exactly what it is that they want you to do, which is part of that limit testing behavior. And then, when you go in to do the check and it's not the sitting down and reading the 3 books, they get a little bit more wild. And so that's where it can feel like doing a check-in might make it worse. So options for this might be that instead of going in and doing your normal phrase in 3 pats, you might just head to the door, open the door crack, say your phrase instead of going right over to the cot. It could be that you lengthen your check-ins out a little bit more. So instead of being 8 minutes, you might make it 12 minutes. Totally fine. You're always responding and reassuring your little one, but it might look different at this age because They don't need as much. It's not that they haven't learned.
They're a different child.
Yeah. And I think what tends to happen too is that some families feel like the protest is there's something not quite right and they need to help them settle off to sleep. And It's not that they've forgotten the art of falling asleep. It's just a development. It's just a new skill. It's about being consistent, persistent, and following through
and boring,
while allowing
them in your consistency,
allowing them to escalate and figure out how to self-regulate. You're always there. You're always going to respond. I think it's a really big part of being a toddler. And yes, sometimes doing the check-ins does make it worse. So your options are to reduce the type of stimulation, so reduce the input, and then make your checks longer if you need to.
Yeah. And then it would be a matter of giving it time. For me, I think, with full-blown 18-month sleep regression, 10 minutes is actually good. What we don't want is if you were to panic and then add something in and then you start to go back to your time checks and all of a sudden you've got 40 minutes because they're now saying, hey, you used to do checks and then you read me 2 extra books and picked me up for 5 minutes of rocking and then I'd fall asleep on your shoulder and then I'd go back in. We would want you to just continue to keep this progress going. And I think the really tricky thing about some of these toddler sleep regressions is it can feel like it's a huge change just overnight. And so that's where if you've had a previously great sleeper, and I've caught myself in this situation too, is you think, okay, this is so out of character, there must be something going. So you do something extra that first night. And then it happens again the next night. And you think, okay, well, 2 nights in a row, like you might be feeling unwell or maybe it's molars or all of these things that go through our brains. This is where I want you to remember the rule of threes that Bec often talks about, that if we've got it for 3 nights in a row, that's your alarm bell to say, is this now a habit that is forming? And your gut instinct will know pretty quickly. And that's okay. You've given it enough time to sort of see if it will self-resolve or if this was just a blip, it was a one-night thing. And then if you think, oof, this feels very rinse and repeat now, like this is a learned pattern, I'm going to hit reset. So then the rule of threes is really important, particularly with toddler work and habits being formed. They can form like that for so many. And again, it's nothing manipulative. It is nothing bad. It's just the nature of all of us being pattern seekers. We like to know what's coming next. And it's kind of the fun and stimulation. It's almost like any attention is good attention at 7 p.m. for an 18-month-old. So if it's been going on for more than 3 nights, do the audit, review internally, does this feel like this is becoming habitual if you've got other things in the mix? If it's just I say it's so easy to have 10 minutes of an 18-month bellowing at you. But if that's what it is, we would recommend seeing it through, giving this sort of 2 weeks and then reviewing of do I need to do something else? But my guess is that with all your ducks in a row, your consistency is what will nip this absolutely in the bud until the 2-year regression.
Yes. Oh, God, that was an evil life. I think we've got an episode too specifically on the 18-month regression, which is absolutely...
Yes, and I think it's quite useful because someone messaged me saying I've listened to it 3 times in a row.
Oh, they're really preparing themselves.
Yeah, as in no, but I think they'd listened to it and then they're in it and then they've needed to re-listen to it a week in and, yep, great, I'm on track. Toddlers will test you and that's their job.
Oh, right. They will.
Sleepy D's, that was fun. We will see you on the next episode. And as always, we will put up a question box and our DMs are still quite flooded. So we got a lot of work to do, Becs? Plural. Lots of questions, a lot of Becs. I need more Becs in my life. We will see you on the next episode. We've got some sleep crimes to solve.
See you later. Bye.